Hello, everyone, and welcome to our District Administration Web Seminar here today, which is entitled Building a Sustainable and Scalable Family Engagement Strategy. And all of this is brought to you by the generous support of our sponsor with us here today, Scribbles Software. Now for some quick housekeeping items, and we'll get right to the presentation. So at the end of our event here today, there will be a live Q&A with our panel. You can submit your questions below via the red Ask Question icon. That's the one with the question mark at any time during the event. You can see it right there on your screen. You can also safely download some content related to today's presentation, and that can be found via the blue module with the paperclip. It's near the bottom of your screen as well, so look out for that. Also, at the end of our presentation, at the very, very end after the Q&A, a post-event survey that will launch on your screen. So please stay on until the very end so you can take part in that. We'd love to hear from you. And lastly, you'll be pleased to know that everyone who is here today and those who registered, all of you will receive an email tomorrow from us here at District Administration. And that email will include a link to the slides as well as the on-demand video. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our speakers today. We have Jermaine White III, who is Assistant Superintendent of Student Support Services at Harnett County Schools in North Carolina. And we also have with us Aurelia Helms, who is a Marketing Manager at Scribbles Software. Well, Jermaine, Aurelia, it's great to have you with us here today. You may now begin.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yes, thank you so much. Super excited to be here today. And to talk with you, Jermaine, about the importance of family and school partnerships and family engagement. So, without further ado, let's get into the questions. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Harnett County Schools?
Awesome. Well, first of all, good afternoon to you. It's so good to see you. I want to thank Scribbles and District Administration for the opportunity to be able to talk to everyone today about family engagement. So a little bit about me. One, I'm highly energetic, so I have to turn myself down just a little bit today because I'm extremely excited to be with you. But my name is Jermaine White. I'm originally from North Carolina, grew up in Durham, North Carolina, so I'm a huge Duke fan. If you're not a Duke fan in the chat, that's okay. It's okay. I love my Blue Devils. I grew up in Durham, North Carolina. Went to undergrad at Howard University in Washington, D.C., and stayed at Howard for my 4 years, came back to North Carolina, and not a career educator, actually lateral entry into education a little bit later on, and started as a teacher in Guilford County, and then transitioned from Guilford County, North Carolina, to Lee County. I was a high school basketball coach at the time, enjoyed doing that, loved it, loved being around the kids and getting them to learn the game of basketball, and got bit by the education bug so good, and I was determined I was not going to be in education ever. My mother was a career educator, but I got bit by the education bug. In around 2011, I came to Harnett County Schools as a teacher at our alternative school. And since then, I've become an administrator, a district administrator, and now assistant superintendent. So I've grown to love everything about education, especially family engagement. And I think my coaching experience and things that I did prior to coming to Harnett County Schools certainly served me well in that capacity.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, what an experience already.
Yes.
So with your role here, could you describe a little bit more about the community at Harnett and the community you serve?
Great. Well, Harnett County Schools is a thriving school district. We are in a thriving community. I guess the best way to explain us is that we're rural metro. And rural metro meaning that we're surrounded by large metropolitan areas here in the state. And so we have Cumberland County School District. We have Fort Liberty, which is right very close to us in an adjacent county. And so that definitely serve our military community. A lot of that spills into Harnett County. We have Wake County right above us. That is a thriving educational community as well. We have a lot of transplants in our community from Wake. Johnston County is around us. And so there are a lot of larger cities that are around our school district. And Harnett County is just a place that you want to come and live and be a part of. It is just an amazing place to raise a family. It's an amazing place for your children to be able to come to school. And we're growing each and every day, becoming more diverse as a population, especially in our northwestern and western parts of our county. And so what that's done is brought some different flavor to the area, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, because people who are not used to good old Southern living are learning how to be able to live and understand the pace of life here. And it's just, again, a wonderful community with people who are willing to work together for the betterment of themselves and as well as our children. So I couldn't ask to be in a better school district that is really, really committed to children being the best versions of themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds like a dream.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned a little bit about, in the recent years, the last 5 to 10 years. Can you share some about the district's priorities during that time?
And so we really have tried as a school district to be able to be as inclusive as we possibly can to meet the needs of our community. Again, we talked about a little bit earlier about our growing population. And so what we're trying to do is really put an emphasis on increasing our graduation rate, looking at community input being a huge focus for us, trying to really evaluate our data and look at our achievement data and see how we can increase our status there, as well as our educator retention data. It's important for us to be able to know our educators here in Harnett County Schools well enough to be able to keep them here and to retain them to be a part of our workforce for many years to come. And then looking at our budget and making sure we're making the best use of our resources. And so really those have been our top priorities. Those are going to continue to be our priorities through the years. If COVID didn't teach us anything, it taught us how to be more flexible in the way that we do things. And so we have definitely learned a lot of lessons from COVID that will do us well 10, 15, 20 years down the road. So again, we're excited about the direction that we're going in.
Absolutely. Yes, it sounds like a lot, but an undertaking that the community seems to back. So how, through those different priorities that you mentioned, have you engaged your students and your families? Can you share more about that?
Yeah, and so, family engagement is something that is near and dear to my heart, so much so that about 2 years ago, what we were able to do right around COVID was create our family engagement team here in the district. And their responsibility was to be able to go out and find ways and means to be able to connect with the community on a deeper level. And so one thing that we found, especially on this side of COVID, is that a lot of our children and their families got disconnected. And if they were disconnected before COVID, they even got further disconnected as a result of COVID and its impact on our school district. And so what we've had to be able to do is kind of survey the landscape and see kind of what our families, our students actually needed. And so we found a lot of good information from the data that we had to be able to suggest that we've got to meet needs individually for our students, but try to find a way to meet the needs collectively as a family. And so it's not just about the classroom and the achievement in the classroom, it's about quality of life outside of the classroom so that they can be the best versions of themselves when they come to school. And so what we've tried to do in all of our schools is work with each of them to be able to say, hey, what is it that your families need and how can we be helpful in doing that? And so our family engagement specialists, all of which bilingual, so the ability to connect with families on multiple levels, were really able to have conversations with families who were having troubling things that were going on as a result of COVID. And so we were able to look at those families and say, hey, if you have any sort of needs that are outside of the classroom, which means if you have needs for food, if you have needs for clothes, if you have needs for shelter, we're going to build a base for you to be able to access resources and put people in your path that will be able to help guide you from one place to another. Also, as a result of COVID, similar to kind of what happens in other situations, people may have had to move from one area to this area. And so what I wanted to do was to have some liaisons in place for those people who are new to Harnett County so that they can have a connector, someone who can walk with them from the enrollment process from the beginning of the enrollment process to getting enrolled in school. And then once the student is enrolled in school, still being a connector for that family, especially if they're new to the area. That also includes our military families, because we've had to find better ways to connect with our military families because we have such a large influx. And so understanding the languages that we needed to be able to speak to connect with those families, because they may be coming from a DODEA school into the public school setting for the first time. And so what we had to be able to do is get them to understand exactly what it is that we do as a school district and how we are actually able to help them in the best capacity. And so it's really a full-on approach with us, a super hands-on approach with trying to meet the needs of all of our students and their families. And I'll say so far so good with regards to what we've been able to do. It's an exciting process. It changes for us every day. And so again, I'm very excited about where we're going with that.
Yeah, it sounds great. I want you to, could you share a little bit more about the team, your family engagement teams and the personnel? How is that? What kind of staff makes up those teams?
Okay, so I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but this is just like a fun story, right? So how family engagement kind of came about was I was sitting at my desk one day and said, we need to do something for families. And I know that sounds very simple and people are probably looking at like, duh, exactly, you need to do something for families. And we have, as a district, been doing it for families for a long time, but we just didn't have a concentrated department to do that with. And so I was going through resumes saying, okay, I just got to find somebody who could be able to do this. And I just happened upon an application with someone who was looking to make a change from another school district. And they really had an interest in wanting to engage families, but didn't have that ability in their previous school district. So my light bulb went off and I said, you know what? This might be your lucky day. It might be the best day of my career, finding a way to be able to engage you. And so we just had a conversation about if you were to create a family engagement space, what would that look like? And I will say, I'll give her a big shout out. Kimberly Winslow, who actually just moved on from our district to be an assistant principal, and I salute her for doing that. But she actually laid out a plan for me about what family engagement would look like, especially for our EL families and others who may be struggling. And so we sat down and we did that. I hired her, brought her on, and then what I had someone who was working in social work in our district, converted that social work position into a family engagement position. I also had another gentleman who was working in academic support for our school district, converted his position into a family engagement position. And they were the original three of family engagement here in our district. And for the last, I would say almost 2 years, they have been working hard, pulling things together, making things work for all of our family. And this year, we were able to expand family engagement, not necessarily just to deal with those issues of food insecurity, as well as not having clothes, shelter, whatever. We were able to expand that even into the behavior realm. And so this year we were able to add a few behavior specialists to the family engagement team to be able to work with families that way. One of the most interesting things I found, and I'm not sure if anybody else in any other school district had this happen, I had a few parents that called me during COVID and said that they appreciated COVID because of the fact that they weren't getting those negative phone calls from schools about their child's behavior. And that hit me because I said, we've got to find a way, one, to be able to engage our families on a more positive basis, more positive level, kind of make those positive phone calls and go from there. But if we've got families who are struggling with behaviors and the children are struggling with behaviors, we've got to find a way to be able to get them some resources, get them some tools to be able to help the children outside of school. And so our behavior specialists kind of being a part of that family engagement team and helping that structure has really assisted us at a high level as well to be able to meet the needs of families. I heard someone say a long time ago, especially when it comes to behavior, and this is very relevant to family engagement, that behavior is the symptom, it's not the problem. And so that can translate into a lot of different things, right? Because again, when we look at children in our classrooms and they're sleeping and we're not sure why they're sleeping, it's not just because, it may not be because of the fact that they want to misbehave or that they don't want to do what you told them to do. It may be a result of what they're dealing with at home. You know, I tell people this story all the time. If I have to deal with mom getting beat by dad, if I have to deal with going from hotel to aunt's house and other people's homes or whatever, that's a tough struggle for me. And so that extends into my classroom, it extends into my performance, and we have to be sensitive to that as educators to be able to know how we can meet the needs of those families and move things forward. I have a saying in my department, which simply is, the standard is the standard. I stole that from Coach Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it's very relevant in everything that we do as far as education is concerned. The standard is going to be the standard. We treat every child as if they're our own child, and we want to provide for them as a school system as much as we can provide for them to be able to support their needs. And I can say we're certainly on our way. Are we perfect? No, but we are making the effort on purpose to be able to engage families, and that makes the difference.
Yeah, you definitely are the trailblazer for that too. That very serendipitous happening for you with your team there. It sounds great. Love that. So I know you touched on this just a little bit, but could you tell me more about how you and your staff have overcome some of the challenges with the population moving in, that diverse population at Harnett?
Whew, it's hard. I have to take a deep breath with that and just kind of let something go. And I might even have to unbutton my jacket because it's tough. We're evolving each and every day, right? And being able to figure out how to deal with students. And I don't know if I can get an amen from somebody who may be listening, but, I think I've gotten to the point now where, I say that children aren't the same as they used to be, or maybe we were that way. I'm not quite sure exactly, how that goes, but, children today are different. They are exposed to a lot of things early on. 2-year-olds are working with iPads and navigating iPads and teaching people how to use iPads. They get information at a pretty quick rate, and it's really tough to be able to stay out in front of that. And so those are some of the challenges. Technology has certainly been a challenge for us as we navigate these spaces. If you talk about family engagement, a lot of the issues that I get when it comes to children in schools has to do with technology of some sort, right? Especially when it comes to cyberbullying or different things that may be kind of taking place inside of our buildings. I get a lot of those phone calls, and what we have to do is be able to stay on top of that and figure out how we're going to navigate those spaces with kids. When it talks about the diversity of our students, a few things there. Our military students come to our district maybe having been exposed to a lot of different things in the other areas that they have been in. So what we have to be able to do is stay up on our trends. And so we have someone in our district that's dedicated to military, kind of acts as a military liaison for us through the NC Purple Star program. All of our schools in our district are military friendly. And so we try to make sure that we understand their needs when they come here and point them in the right direction as far as resources and everything like that is concerned. And again, we always deal with, from a student population perspective, the haves and the have-nots. The ones who have the ability to be able to get resources and those children who don't. You look at issues of poverty, you look at other socioeconomic things that may be kind of holding some families back from being the best versions of themselves. What do you do when you have a single mother who has 4 children and she's trying to figure out a way to be able to get them to school, and she's doing the best that she can to be able to get them to school, but she's got to work like a second shift and has no after school care? How do I pay for those types of things? Those challenges we've taken head on in our district and said we've got to figure out ways and means to be able to help these families in trying to be able to, again, reach the best life that they want to be able to accomplish for their children. How we handle it is, when I first took my position 6 years ago, I had to look at our budget and simply say, from a budget perspective, are we utilizing our funds to the best of our ability? Are we still doing things that worked 15 years ago that aren't necessarily relevant now? And what I found was we were funding some things that really had no relevancy to where children and their families were at that time. And that's still a challenge to be able to try to keep up with those trends and figure out what we need to do. But we've been trying to figure out ways from a budget perspective to be able to set aside funds along with the funds that we already received to help these families at a much greater clip. And so again, when it comes to after school programming, we partner with our local YMCA. We try to help families who don't have the money to be able to pay for after school. We try to find creative ways to be able to do that for families or before care. Try to find ways to do that with families. Partnerships have been huge for us in the community. And I can brag on the Harnett County community because I really haven't had many partners that have said we don't want to partner with the school system, right? And so from the Harnett County government to other areas, smaller businesses, when we've gone out and we've asked for certain things to be able to help our families, they've given them to us and we've been able to address some of these needs. And what I've tried to preach to our community partners is it doesn't just have to be one entity that does it. It can be multiple entities that do things inside of a school building to be able to meet the needs of children. For example, a 1,000-seat school building where you have programs who may be limited to working with only 250 kids, right? And that gives me an opportunity to find other partners who may be able to work with the other 750 plus children to be able to say, hey, we need you to come in and maybe take another 250. And then maybe somebody can come behind you and take another 250. And if we do that and find ways and means to be able to collaborate, we continue to escalate our family engagement status in the community 10, 20, 30 fold. That people will understand by investing in us as a school district that they are actually doing a great thing to be able to help not just the child, but their family as well. And so again, that has been tremendous for us, building those relationships in the community and working with partners to be able to meet those needs.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely takes a village. Sounds like you have a great one. So more inside, I guess, the district, how have you adjusted any programs? I feel like you guys are pretty innovative and don't shy away from adding things. How have you adjusted any program offerings to better meet the needs of your students and families?
So let's start with enrollment, because enrollment was a huge thing for me when I first got this job. We were doing everything by hand. Our schools were, with pen and paper, getting applications in. And sometimes you can get really comfortable doing that. But I always try to look around and see what others are doing. And a lot of the school districts around us had actually moved to an electronic way of being able to do enrollments and those sorts of things. And so I kind of got a bit nosy and stumbled into Scribbles and saw the platform that Scribbles was offering and said, I think that might be a good thing for our school district to be able to do. And so we actually looked at partnering with Scribbles to meet the needs of first our online transfers, our reassignments, our discretionary additions. We went that way first before we jumped into the enrollment piece. But what I found by doing that is that my department became a lot more efficient in meeting the needs. The time that we were spending doing a lot of stuff by paper and pen, we were able to answer phone calls and emails from families about enrollment questions or school transfer questions. And so it saved us a lot of time in moving forward. It also helped us to be able to build data points to be able to share that we probably did not have the opportunity to be able to do before. And so we were able to better keep up with our enrollment, our online enrollments, be able to better keep up with our online transfers, kind of know who's going where, and be able to take that information to stakeholders who may ask for it and be able to say, hey, we may need some more resources in this area to be able to help, because we see there are more enrollments coming here to this part of the county than there are to other parts of the county, and so on and so forth. And so again, those types of programs have really helped us be able to manage our central services processes a whole lot better. Outside of central services, when you get into our schools, we really had to look at, especially after COVID, how we were going to catch some of our kids up. Learning loss is real. And there were gaps before COVID, but what we saw was there were even more gaps after COVID. especially with families getting comfortable. So how do we up that? What do we look at to be able to help bring our children back up to speed? And so what we looked at was some tutoring opportunities, not just face-to-face tutoring opportunities, but online tutoring opportunities as well. We stumbled upon a program named Paper that actually was piloted in a few of our schools. And Paper has been an amazing partner for us because they offer 24/7 tutoring. They offer 24/7 tutoring in multiple languages. And so we've really seen some engagement levels at our elementary schools and our middle schools that we piloted the program in excel. And so I'm not sure if this was a result, but I will kind of plug the fact that those schools who actually piloted the program for us actually met or exceeded growth as far as the North Carolina standards were concerned. And so that's definitely something to be proud of. Not just the program by itself, definitely the teachers and the families that were involved with that. But I do want to say, I believe that those children having access to something after school to be able to support them makes a huge difference. We really put a lot of emphasis as well on social emotional learning. And I will continue to say that I believe social emotional learning is more than just a worksheet, and it's more than just a buzzword. And so we partner with Character Strong to be able to implement social emotional learning programs inside of all of our schools. Our counselors are responsible for delivering that content in partnership with our teachers so that we can meet the needs of the whole child. That's important to me as a student services person, that we meet the needs of the whole child. And if we can round that out and make sure that they're good socially, emotionally, that leads to gains academically. And so, again, we had to make that adjustment where before COVID, you had programs in schools that kind of met character needs. You had programs in schools that they were kind of few and far between in some cases. But we really had to come in after COVID and focus on what we felt like we needed to do to be able to elevate our school district and meet the needs of our families. Now, we've lost some families along the way due to private offerings or some charter offerings or whatever. But we are working diligently to be able to find ways for those families to be able to come back to us. And so we're really on a fact-finding mission to be able to see what additional program offerings we may need to look at in order to entice people towards public education. And so it's an ongoing process. I tell everyone, we will be the guinea pig for whatever it is you want to look at piloting from a program perspective, because there's nothing too good for our children. Right. And the worst thing it can do, there's no such thing as failure. There's only opportunity. And so I don't believe in programs failing. I just believe in opportunities for children and their families. And I am quick. Anybody from my team will tell you, if it's not working, we're not going to stick and stay with it. You know, we're going to give it some time. We're going to try to build the appropriate data points. But if it's not working, we're going to move on and find something else to be able to help our children and their families. So again, I can talk like 4 hours, and if everybody has like 4 or 5 hours to sit with me, you can learn everything you want to learn about Harnett County Schools and what we do in student support services. You know, this year's theme is the blueprint. That's the theme for our department. And the reason why we went with the blueprint was because we had to really hit the reset button with a lot of changes inside of the department, a lot of changes inside the school district. We revamped our strategic plan this year. And so it was a really good opportunity for our department to become plugged in to our new strategic plan. And so I'm just very excited about where we're going, what we're doing, and how we're getting there.
Yeah, I love the energy. So it's so great. It's contagious. I feel energized.
Awesome.
You mentioned, a little bit about like taking some data and possibly using that to, maybe uncover some programs or some different things that students leaving the district might be interested in. That and any other way that you wanted to operationalize any of those initiatives that you could elaborate on.
Absolutely. And so kind of what we look at is we take a team approach to what we're doing. We sit down and we discuss all of these things that we feel like are good for children. And there may be some team members that say, hey, I think this is great, but then when they flesh it out, we realize it's not something that's sustainable. So when I look at operationalizing anything, the first thing is this sustainable? Will there be a life beyond us? If we were all to move and like 2 or 3 or 4 years, is this something that can become a fabric of the school district that they can't live without? And so I'm proud to be able to say a lot of our initiatives that we've been able to operationalize are not just things that we do for our satisfaction. We do it to be able to make sure that it lives well beyond us. And so when we're building those things, that's the first thing we look for is sustainability. The next thing is we don't have to take the huge approach to putting something out there to the school district. So let me tell you a secret. This is not something I tell everybody. If you say I said it, I will deny it to the hill. All right, so here's how I cook. I cook a little different than some people. Some people may say he's crazy, but it is what it is. I just don't necessarily believe in like mandated things to roll out to the district unless we have to do it. One, because you don't get the buy-in from everybody, right? There's some people are going to complain anyway, regardless of what you do. But at the end of the day, if you roll it out, it's not going to be done with the fidelity that you may necessarily want it to be done with. And so what I have learned is to start small. And I find me a few principals, just a few good principals, who want to be innovative with me and ride this innovation train. And once I get those principals riding that innovation train with me, what we end up doing is, and again, this is the secret sauce right here, okay? Again, I'm putting this out here to the world. Somebody may say, that doesn't work, but I'm telling you it does. I roll it out with a few principals, and I let them pump it up about how great it is. And because people are competitive, they get jealous, and they got to have these programs inside of their buildings as well. And then it becomes a win-win-win for everyone. I already knew, my team, we already knew some of these programs were going to be great for the district, but everybody did. But those few principals who decided to roll the innovation train with us realized this is not a bad thing. And you know what? We're starting to see family engagement, student engagement. We're starting to see test scores rise. We're starting to see these things. We're glad we jumped on this. And then when we get in meetings, I may have them talk a little bit. I'm giving away all my secrets. I might have them talk a little bit. I might have them say a little bit about it because I think it's important that people hear the great things that are going on inside of our buildings as well. And if I can just get one principal who was hard and say, I'm not going to do it, turn around and do it, that just makes a whole lot of sense for us to be able to do it. So again, now I got to change my whole strategy for 24 because I gave it out my secret sauce. But again, our theme is the blueprint, right? So I'm giving some folks the blueprint about how to be able to do it. It doesn't have to be everybody. It can be a few people that are willing to say, we're rolling with you. And, it's the same thing in our classrooms. If I can get that kid that's been the most difficult behavior issue to roll with me, when we're doing something, he may bring some of the other, or she may bring some of the other folks along with them. It's the same thing with our teachers. We're not trying to put our teachers in a position where we're giving them all of these things to do, constantly giving them programs or whatever. I really had to talk to my folks about scaling some of this back because our teachers are the ones on the front lines that have to implement some of this, but we got to make it make sense for them. So give me a few teachers who may be able to sing the praises of the program, and then some of the other teachers might get a little jealous or competitive and say, I got to have it too if it's working for your kid. And then we just build this competitive place where everybody's fighting for the hearts of our children. And that's what we really want at the end of the day, is that they're competing for the hearts of our children. And, we've gotten so mundane, we've gotten so boring, we've gotten so, just cookie cutter about education. And the thing about education that I loved the most growing up, not just because my mom was a teacher and I couldn't do anything bad anyway, but the thing that we loved about education growing up was that it was just always something new every day. And we utilize a lot of these things that we talked about today, initiative-wise, to really be able to capture, again, I know that that's a program, so I don't want to miss the copyright or anything, but to really capture the hearts of children. And really look at ways and means to be able to get them excited about coming into our buildings. As educators, and I know this is still a part of operationalizing the initiative, right? We have to have a positive attitude as well. So we talked about sustainability, we talked about competitive, and getting people to kind of buy in and get on board. But we also have to have the proper attitude with that. And the attitude is, if we're going to do it, let's just give it everything we got and see where it goes. And I think that has really helped us. We've had some things, and again, I don't want anybody on this call to believe that it's all perfect, because it isn't. But it's really good, because we have the support of our school board, we have the support of our superintendent, we have the buy-in from all of our student support services staff. And when they see me, they say, we know he's coming with something, we just don't know what he's coming with. But because he's coming with it, he believes in it so much that maybe we could do it. You know what I mean? And maybe it can be done.
Great reputation.
So that's responsibility that I love. You know what I mean? And so I love what I do. I really do. I give up all the secrets today. We probably could end the call that way because I've given up too much. But
I love that. I love the tip.
We make it feel as if it has been a part of what we do as a school district forever. And that is the main piece of the operationalizing piece. I want people to walk away from it and say, we planned it out, we structured it so good that it feels like this has been here for 5 or 6 years. Can I make a quick one? Yeah. So our mental health team, because this is something that I think is important. We actually pay for, we staff, they're part of our school district roster, our mental health team. One thing about our mental health team is that they are really passionate about the work that they do. And that came from an idea as well. And they've only been in our district. The mental health team's only been in our district. Now, this is our 3rd school year of having a full-fledged, dedicated mental health team. But there are people who bring them problems like they've been in the district for 15 or 20 years, right? And so what I have to get people to understand is, you all have done your job so well that people think you have always been here. That's the key to operationalizing any initiative. And so a lot is on their table. People think, and I have to remind people that, look, we've only been doing this 2 or 3 years. So there's some things we're still learning in the process. But if they have that feeling about that initiative, then we have done our job well. Kudos to my team, because I couldn't do it without them. But that's how we operate and do what we do.
Oh, I love that. That's a great measure.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing the tip with the inception of competitiveness. That's very smart.
It works, people. It works.
I believe that. And I know you mentioned a little bit about the blueprint that your team is focusing on. Is there any other effort, or do you want to tell us a little bit more about the blueprint?
Yes, let's talk about the blueprint. It starts with superior service. We're not going to compromise what we do. Again, the standard is the overall thing, but we provide superior service. If a parent calls us, we will call them back. If a parent emails us, we will email them back. That is part of what we do. And that's very important to me, because I don't want anybody to say that they weren't communicated to. The best school districts in our country, the best school districts around the world, communicate with families. And I don't believe there's such thing as over-communication. You just have to have quality communication when you do reach out. And so when I told a group of beginning teachers, and I tell my beginning counselors this, beginning social workers this, or whatever, is don't wait until something bad happens for you to reach out to a parent. And what I told our group this year was, from an open house perspective, because, a lot of times open houses for school districts are in the evening. It's really tough for some parents to get off and rush to the school and go from there. What I challenged our beginning teachers to do this year was, I need you to call every parent in your classroom that didn't show up at open house. And what I need for you to do is introduce yourself and get off on the right foot, so that when you do have to call them about something negative, they're not just like, oh my gosh, here he is or here she is calling me about something negative. I remember them introducing themselves to me prior to, I couldn't make it to open house, but I remember them introducing themselves to me, and that set the standard. It's the same thing no matter what we do. And as long as we're able to provide that superior service, it makes a huge difference. Another one of our initiatives in the blueprint is Team 90. Our graduation rates in all of our high schools, our goal is to get 90% or above. Now, I know for some people on the call, that may be real easy for you. It's been a bit of a struggle for us. And when I say struggle, not a negative struggle, it's a beautiful struggle to be able to see where we were and where we are now. Back in 2014, our graduation rate in the district was about 79.6, and I'm probably off by 0.2 or 3 numbers, 79.6. Right now, we're at about 86.6 as far as our graduation rate is concerned. And so that is a testament to the work of all of our departments in our school district, being able to say we're committed to graduation. Now what we have to do is say we're going to take that to another level. And so what we want for all of our high schools to be able to do is graduate 90% of their students within 4 years. And so Team 90 is definitely a part of our Blueprint initiative. The next piece of that, attendance matters. I don't know about you, but it's hard to be able to learn if you're not in school. So what we've been telling our principals and what we've been trying to do is find creative ways to be able to engage families on the importance of being in school each and every day, and giving them opportunities, if they can't be, finding creative ways for students to be able to make up assignments or come into schools to be able to get some additional assistance. We've got to look at those types of options to be able to get them in the buildings. One of the things that, we kind of do in education, and again, hopefully y'all will invite me back to talk some more about some of these things, but one of the things that we do is sometimes we scare off parents with our education needs. We start talking in that language, and we start, speaking over their heads sometimes and thinking that they understand it. And sometimes they don't. So we've got to figure out how to meet them where they are. And if you have these big attendance signs in the street saying attendance now, you're tardy to school, come to the main office, that can be intimidating for some people.
Yeah.
And so we have to be able to figure out how to take the intimidation out of it and find a way to engage them to want to be able to come in the building. And again, we talked about competitiveness early. I would love to see kids racing to the building to get in their classroom versus running away from the building because they had a negative experience, right? And so we've got to continue to the family engagement space to be able to find out how attendance matters and make that more of a priority in the district. Changing the PLC. This is extremely important to me. So the learning communities that are within our department, I'm only going to speak about our department, I can't speak about other departments. Our professional learning communities inside of our departments need a little bit of revamping. And so this year, what we've done as a result of the blueprint and our strategic plan is found ways to be able to revamp those PLCs so that they're more impactful. I want our team to walk away from their PLCs and take some strategies back that they can implement right away. Yes, we do some future casting, but at the end of the day, I don't want those PLCs to become gripe sessions. I don't want them to be places where a bunch of negative information is being spewed. I need them to be places of collaboration and innovation. And we've learned something that this school was doing that we weren't sure how they did it, but we learned that space, how they did it, and we scaled it to what we do to make it effective for our children and their families. That's important. So we actually changed the PLC. Let me give you another secret to leaders who are on the call. Here's what I did last year. I'm sure my people didn't like it. And if some of them are on the call right now, they're probably like, oh my gosh, this is just really too much. You shouldn't be sharing all this. But I actually had a feedback session with a bunch of student support services staff members. And I made my leaders sit there and listen to all of it, negative and good. And sometimes the negative didn't feel so good. But I can tell you we learned more from the negative in a lot of cases than we did from the positive types of things, because I always want to know how we can get better. And that was a good opportunity for us to get better. And as a result of that feedback, we actually changed our PLCs and how our PLCs operate. At Promise conferences, which is something that we're going to implement this year for our schools. I really got tired of the elementary school, not necessarily talking to the middle school, not necessarily talking to the high school, about children who are, people used to use the term at risk. I use the term at promise, about those at promise students that were probably struggling in classes, not the best attendance, always getting suspended, those sorts of things. Between our middle and our high schools this year, we're going to have at promise conferences where we're going to focus on those kids, so that the middle school kid who is leaving, for example, one of our middle schools and going to the high schools, those counselors are going to be able to talk to each other. and say, hey, this is the strategy. These are the strategies that we implemented while he or she was here that we think will work, that may be scalable to the high school, and the high school can talk to them about the types of things that they do, so we can work together to make sure these children meet that 4-year graduation rate so that we can be at 90%. Those types of conversations were not taking place as much as I need them to in the district. And so those at promise conferences are something that are huge for me. Executive coaching. We actually will take the opportunity to work with our team on executive coaching and finding how to strengthen their resume, putting them at conferences that will help enhance their craft for them to be able to learn more about what they're doing. We're going to hold these executive coaching sessions with those who schedule them so that we can make them better for whatever their next challenge is. I'm not naive enough to believe that they're going to stay with us forever. Now, we want them to. We definitely do. But if they're going to move on, can we help polish them up a little bit or work with them on some of the skills? Because they may move away and want to go to another school district or do something in higher education. And so I want, if their foundation wasn't Harnett, I want it to be the best experience that it possibly could be. And that executive coaching certainly has allowed us to be able to do that this year, and we'll start those sessions pretty shortly. I've got like one more slide as it comes to what we're focusing on, and the biggest focus of it all is leadership matters. We're representatives in the community. We're representatives inside of our buildings. When you see us, you should be able to stop us and ask us a question, and we smile back to you and give you the answer. And if we can't find the answer, we'll find somebody who will get you the answer. We are collaborative with everybody. And so I always tell principals, if one of our folks is in your building and they're not giving you 100% effort, I need to know about it so we can have a conversation about it. Not to demean and not to put somebody down, but there may be something they're going through, their own mental health, that we may need to talk about and address as a leadership team to be able to help them. They may be overwhelmed because it happens in social work, in school health, in school counseling. You can get overwhelmed with some of these things that our children are going through. And so do have somebody to talk to. And that's what our leadership team is for, to be able to give them a space, a safe space, to be able to talk to us as well. So leadership certainly matters. And so, again, I went into a little bit of the blueprint, talked about it, but that's just kind of what we're on and what we're believing. And so far, so good as far as our area is concerned, because I just really do appreciate what our student services team brings to the table here at Harnett County.
Yes, sounds, you guys have a lot going on.
Yes.
So with all those different things under the blueprint and the other initiatives, where do you see your district in the next 5 years? Any other things that need to happen for that goal to happen?
Yeah, and so with our new strategic plan, we were able to revamp our mission and our vision for the next 5 years. So this kind of came right on time as far as our school district is concerned. Again, our core priorities are simply a comprehensive system of support. We support the North Carolina Portrait of a Graduate here, which if you're not familiar with North Carolina and the Portrait of a Graduate, I would suggest that you look that up and see what that is. Quality recruitment and retention. Again, we want the best of the best to work here in Harnett County. As far as our district is concerned, safe and modern learning environments, how to be able to successfully integrate technology into what we're doing, but also providing areas and spaces when our children come into the building that they feel safe in and don't have to worry about the outside world coming in to affect them. And financial optimization, again, using the taxpayers' money to the best of our ability and doing that with fidelity and making sure that we're focusing a lot of that on programming and the needs of children and their families to make sure that they're successful. And so those are kind of our core priorities there. And then from a changes perspective, we just have to keep evolving with the times. And if another COVID happens or something worse happens, we have to have the ability to be able to flip and change on a dime with regards to what's going on around us. And I think we're building the infrastructure to be able to sustain that should something like that happen again. So it's just kind of where we are.
Yeah, wow, those goals sound great.
Yes.
Definitely understand that. And I have one final question for you. If you could, share what a district or a school maybe wants to emulate what Harnett's done, so you could share an actionable item that someone might take back with them to increase their family engagement and maybe ignite some of these initiatives at their school or district?
Well, if you ever want to reach out to me directly, I'm sure my email address and Twitter and everything is out there for me. I share it all because I may have gotten it from somebody else, and so I don't hold it. I don't hold it back. But some of the actionable steps that any school district can take is first getting a plan together and having a strategy and being committed to saying we want to engage families. I think a lot of times what happens is we're a bit apprehensive because we don't know what direction we want to take. And I would simply say, find the need inside of your district that needs to be addressed at a much quicker pace than you're able to do it at, and take that need and say, that's what we're going to start with from a family engagement perspective. For example, if food insecurity is something in your school district that you know exists, are there community partners or people that can come in and help you do that work along with your school social workers, your school counselors, and others that can help you do that work just to see how that helps families grow and thrive in your community? Then you can move on to whatever the next thing is. But there are issues in every community around the United States and beyond, and those issues find their ways into our schools, into our classrooms, into the lives of our students and their families. And so I just say, find something that you're passionate about and make that your family engagement, project, and start with that in order to be able to get into the work. But if you've heard something today that you're like, I think that's really cool, or we would love to know more about how you all do that, you can certainly reach out to us, or you can come see us. We're friendly too. Like, we have a lot of good spaces where you come and eat, have a good time, and we'll sit down and we'll show you everything we do as far as Harnett County Schools is concerned. No secrets here. We're all about transparency.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. I genuinely believe that you are genuine about that.
Yes.
And that was all the questions I had for you. I think we might have some from the audience.
Yeah, let me just jump in here and just say, we're now at the Q&A portion of this presentation today, where you can submit your questions in writing to Jermaine so they can be answered. If you haven't already, you can submit your questions by accessing the Ask Question panel that we have right there. It's on the bottom of your screen, the red icon with the question mark. And again, make sure to stay on until the very end to participate in our post-event survey. It'll pop up on your screen right when I close out in a few moments. But first, we do have a few questions here. And I just want to say first, Jermaine, I like that you switched from, you're not using at risk, you're using at promise. I hope that most schools are successful in that. I like that. But so this first question, what kind of support, does the multilingual families have at your district to be able to connect with, the school, teachers, and community?
Great question. And so we have an outstanding Title III EL department that is not under my purview, but under the purview of curriculum and instruction. But one thing that I found as far as my department was concerned is that we're making a lot of excuses on not being able to communicate with families. And so what we did as a department last year was create a program called Hola Harnett. And that was for our Student Support Services Department to be able to learn some conversational Spanish so that we could be able to communicate with families initially, and then find ways to be able to get them to where they needed some of the assistance. Also, what we did was we partnered with North Carolina State University and Dr. Maria Cody, who is just an awesome, if you have not seen anything from Dr. Maria Cody about multi-language learners, as well as family engagement, please look her up, because she is an amazing, amazing resource. And she's got a conference coming up next week too, and I'm excited about the conference. But we partnered with NC State University, and they did a comprehensive study on our school district to look at where we were deficient in those areas. And so one of the things that they did talk about as far as conclusions was concerned is that we had to do a much better job as a school district about bringing resources such as health, dental, library to families from outside of the district. And so we've partnered with a few vendors to be able to do that, to bring that to our multi-language families. In addition to looking at targeted professional development and support for the work of the staff that are incorporating themselves with those families. And so we're taking some proactive approaches there to be able to do that. We've had a few family nights that were conducted in the native language of the population that we were serving for that evening. And so we have a pretty large Hispanic population here in the district. I know some of our schools have done those. We have the dual language programs. And so there are opportunities there to be able to engage families. And so we've really taken a proactive approach with that over the last 3 or 4 years to meet the needs of those families.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think we might have time for 1 or 2 more questions. We'll see. So this question that came in, they're wondering if your district at all are doing any home visits or anything like that.
Yes, and so we are doing home visits. One of the things I focused on with my team this year is that we're going to have a home visit week. We're going to teach our schools and our administrators mainly that home visits are not just limited to counselors and social workers. That it could be anyone, teachers, administrators, who can go out to a home and see what our children are doing and engage with them that way. And so we definitely believe in that. COVID kind of slowed that down a lot. We go out in pairs. We probably will go out in masks now for those who do those home visits, but that's something that's a crucial part of that family engagement piece. If we got a kid who hasn't been in school 10, 20, 30 days, we need to go see where they are. And try to figure out how we can get them back into our fold. And so that's something we absolutely believe in.
Perfect. Thank you. And now we are almost at the top of the hour here, so I want to be mindful of everyone's time. But I will say we did get in the Q&A, it looks like it might be someone from your team, Jermaine, just sharing a hashtag that looks like your school district uses hashtag success with HCS. So I just wanted to give that a shout out as well. But I just want to say we are at the top of the hour. If we didn't get to your questions, I can see there are a few more in there. That's not a problem. We at DA, we will be sharing them with our partners at Scribbles so they can get back to your questions individually after today's event. So no worries. And actually, as I go through my closing slides in just a few moments, please feel free to continue submitting any questions that come to mind from now until the very end, and I'll make sure they're sent over so they can be answered at some point in the future. But first off, I just want to say thank you again, Jermaine and Aurelia, for sharing your expertise and time with us today. We really appreciate it. We really do. Even all your secret sauces, we all appreciate that. And of course,
it's out there, so it's all good.
And of course, I just want to give a thank you to Scribbles Software as well. And also with that said, I would like to take a minute just to thank you, our audience, for being with us here today as well. For those of you who enjoyed our presentation today, we have more webinars like this one that are provided by us here at District Administration, which is the leader in editorial coverage of news, trends, as well as current issues in K-12. We have a wide range of readers who subscribe for free to DA, such as yourselves, and they stay up to date with us in our print magazine, online, newsletters, DA Ed Talks, and web seminars like this one. Also, if you would like to watch this presentation again, or for those of you who believe that what you heard would be helpful to your colleagues, and I'm sure that is very much the case, you are pleased to know that our team at DA, we will be sending you an email at some point later tomorrow. In that email, it will include the on-demand recording of this presentation, as well as a link to the slides as well. So with that, on behalf of DA, this is Stephen Blackburn. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Jermaine, again, and thank you, Aurelia. This was really great.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay.